Welcome everyone to week 2 of SmashUp Review, where we'll take a look at this past week. I'm here with my co-host Owen, and joining us today is Steve Walanda. Welcome, Steve.
Oh,
Um,
thanks for having me.
Steve is, I think you placed third in week 1, so is one of our star players. He also is an expert. He writes for RotoWire, and you can find him on Twitter under the handle the Spatula 300. So, um, Steve, I think you mentioned you were at the Packers game this weekend.
I was, yeah.
How was that?
It turned out to be a great game. I mean, I was very worried with Malik Willis starting. I actually am, well, now I'm embarrassed to say I bet on the Colts. I didn't think the Packers would be able to pull it off, but no, they coached him up. I mean, they kept him out of trouble. He didn't have to throw the ball very much. I guess when you could run the ball 30 times with your running back and they
I was
can't
gonna
stop it,
say.
it helps.
How many times did um who who was it now? Jacobs?
Jacobs, yeah. I mean, he had over 30 carries. And
Yeah,
like they,
just
they they had to know what was coming and they couldn't stop it. So
yeah. That's crazy. Week 2, I have to say it was a bit of a strange week. I think basically none of the games went the way that I thought they were going to go. Almost every game I thought that was going to go one way ended up being totally different. Oh, and I don't know about you, like what were your thoughts on how week 2 went?
Well, first, I hope nobody watched last week when you and I are both like, no way the Ravens lose. There's a lock. Let's play defense wins championships on them. Yet what? Every favorite lost basically. I mean, I'm
Except the
glad I
Chargers.
got
Except the
what's that? Yeah,
Chargers.
that's right. That's right. I think probably the things that I was you got right. McCaffrey's injured. Pacheco, Cup, JJ. I mean, just some real big injuries. I love the story. I'll keep bringing it up until they fail me. But Dobbins and Jameson, they keep rolling. I love that story of these guys that have been injury prone that are doing great. And then my rookie quarterback review. I think my friend from Washington gets his first win on 7 field goals. So fun stat, right? No touchdowns thrown by any of the rookie quarterbacks yet, right? I think that's pretty crazy. But Jaden, the only one without an interception. We'll take Penix and Drake May out of that equation since they haven't played yet. But yeah, what a week.
Yeah. Speaking of that Giants Commanders game, I think I read somewhere it was the first time a team scored 3 touchdowns, held the opponent to no touchdowns, and still lost.
Yeah, yeah.
Steve, what about you? What are your thoughts on week 2?
yeah, a lot of the same things you said, but overall, I mean, both week one and week two, I wish I would have saved the stat, but I saw a stat out there that somebody put out just about how far down passing yardage is down this year. It's like passing yardage is way down compared to the previous like 10 years, which is surprising. When the game seems to keep leaning more and more towards passing, and we're just not seeing it this year.
What do you
Um,
think, Steve? You think it's a quarterback quality issue or a gameplay?
hmm. Yeah, there definitely are some QBs there that are dragging those numbers down.
Poor Bryce Young, right? Let's see what Andy Dalton can do. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think I mean, they're going to be a little bit more competitive with Dalton in there.
Yeah,
And I think they get the Raiders this week, so that could actually be an interesting game.
yeah.
We'll see.
And I was talking to someone the other day too about how teams just aren't treating the preseason, as an actual preseason. And really, like the first couple of weeks, you're seeing a lot of these teams, especially with new folks, like gelling and, not really, I would say, fully up to where they are. And I wonder if that's a stat that's just going to revert over the course of the season. Um,
Just yeah, I think as they get more reps together, we'll
yeah.
probably see some improved performance and stats will get better.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in and take a look at SmashUp data. So I am going to share some numbers from kind of what we saw last week. So this is basically if you look within kind of the week 2 weekly tournament. Again, we had a good number of people play, about 1,500 entries. And these, along with an additional 600 in league, so over 200, over 2,000 lineups, and these are basically the top picked players. Good to see that of the ones, we talk about the defenses that did not do well, and again, Dallas, man, Dallas, that was not expected. Um, how many points did the Saints hang up on them? Like 40 something?
I don't know. After
Over 40,
Kamara's
yeah. I
third
mean
touchdown, I stopped watching.
Yeah, yeah. It is good to see though that the Chargers, the top pick defense did come through. But again, we continue to see kind of your top, the top receivers really coming through here. That's where folks seem to be spending most of their budget. A lot of them are kind of spending that on running backs, receivers. Owen Dobbins, number
Yeah,
3, third most picked running back last week.
I love it.
People catching on. Um, Anything that kind of jumps out at you here, Owen? Any names that are surprising in terms of like a top 5?
No, not really. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, like, are the winners paying up for these folks, right? Cup got hurt, didn't have a great game. Like, I mean, are you seeing any data that supports, like, in my opinion, with SmashUp, without it being a PPR, I've been going about it playing more, running backs. I've kind of shifted that way. So I am curious how the sort of leaders are doing it, because I have not won anything. So I may be doing it all wrong.
Um, well, Steve, you placed top 5 last week. Anything here that jumps out at you, or anything that you want to share in terms of how you're approaching picking your teams?
Um, well, what worked for me in week 1 was I had Jaden Daniels. He put up some good stats. I had Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans. Yeah, basically I hit on all the right players, and then with my smash cards, I did what we're seeing a lot of the leaderboard do, and just piling it on defense. So I just pick that defense that's going against a really weak offense, and throw some cards on top of there and pick up some easy points. And yeah, as I was looking at the leaderboard again this week, see a lot more of the same, where the defense is really carrying teams to the top of the leaderboard.
Hmm. Yeah, and we're actually going to take a deeper dive on that in a little bit, but let me just shift gears real quick and talk about in terms of kind of the top cards and the top combos. You can see in terms of how many players, how many cards were played, and kind of what some of those top ones are. You do see some of the defense cards here: starting defense, Hall of Fame, and defense wins championships. Certainly, all here in the top 10. Scramble spikes. I think a lot of people played scramble spikes last week with the whole. In fact, you see it here. The top combo, right? The top player card combo was Jane Daniels with scramble spikes. I know, Steve, you got a lot of mileage out of that week 1, and it seems like a ton of people came back and kind of did that as well. We see quite a bit with Cooper Kupp here. Cooper Kupp with 3 here,
I see
3 in the
Tyler
top
down
10,
there, yeah.
another one down here. And I am actually surprised that I guess not that surprised. Like, of all the defenses, really, like, people really loaded up on anybody playing the Panthers. We'll see if that holds true again this week. Again, Raiders, not so sure. Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's also not a terrible quarterback. Like, you know, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
He at least has experience.
Yes. Um, all right. And anything that kind of jumps out at you, Steve, Owen, and anything that in particular that you want to um
I don't have the card prices completely memorized, but when I'm looking here at the, from two to, rows 2 to 17, I'm guessing that none of these are over that $5,000 or $6,000 price point.
Yeah, I would
Maybe
say
all
that.
pro wide receiver is.
So all pro wide receiver, Hall of Fame defense. I think Hall of Fame defense is up there a little bit.
Okay.
Home field advantage, and ride or die and home field advantage, both field level cards. A lot of people played these two in terms of just stacking their team with folks who are playing at home. Quite a bit there. Both of these are 6,000, I think. But I think you're right. In general, we continue to see some of the cheaper cards get played more, which is great. It means people are playing more cards, which is helpful.
That'd be a fun, not to make your life miserable, Hybo, but maybe next week we start seeing like what's the average number of cards people are playing? I mean, are people, what is it? You play a 10,000 and a 2,000, or are there more kind of 2, 3, 1 for human vulture that people are stacking?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I want to take a brief look just at the scoreboard. So let's shift over and just take a little quick look at how the leaderboard shook out. Winning this week is Cup of Destruction. And what's interesting, they did not do the defense stack. They won without playing the defense. They overall, I think they did really well on the player side.
Yeah.
I think if you take a look at their player scores, 141 is probably one of the best player scores. I see a 144 here, or 145, a 143, but they basically really knocked it out of the park with their players. And then on the card side, Kyler, they had starting QB. Kyler obviously had a great game here. Derrick Henry, and then one of their big cards was Speed Demon on Metcalf, which netted them 30. Metcalf had that kind of big play there. So overall, they definitely went more of a spread approach. We don't see a lot of stacking on a particular card, and yeah, they ended up doing really well.
I would
Um,
just like to vent real quick. Marvin Harrison, what an amazing game. Player prop for reception was set at 4.5. 4 catches and 2 touchdowns at the half. And my guy can't catch another pass in the second half to get me to
oh
5
man.
receptions. So great game, Marvin. But did you get a call? Did someone call that in? Because that was not cool, my friend. Not cool.
No, I've actually I can vent with you because I had a similar thing happen with I had Jalen Waddle on Thursday night. I needed him to get 5 catches, but then Tua goes out and they don't have a quarterback
Done.
who could complete a pass anymore.
Yep.
So yeah,
Oh,
he got to 4 catches. I had a three player pick on Prize Picks and lost it because of that one.
yeah. We'll call it the 4.5 curse right now for receiver. Let's see if it holds true this week, but not fun. I forgot about Waddle. That's right. That's painful too.
One other thing that I thought was super interesting is if you take a look at our week one scores, first off, the scores were just way higher. I think week two, the top score was 193, and that would have been like eighth if they played week one. But look at these card points. Like people are just scoring enormous number of points, like over 190, right? 60, 80, 90. But compare that to week two, where again, overall scoring was just down, but also like the card points were more in that 50, 60 range. It was definitely something where, if you hit on your players and you had solid cards, you were going to do really well in week two.
Can you
Um,
click into the 12th Kevin Van 75 card points? I'm guessing that might be the top card score. What did they do?
so
Defensive CD.
yeah, so it looks like they did two on the Chargers, and then what did they have on? They had Speed Demon on CD as well. Yep. So yeah, it'll be pretty interesting. And one thing that I think is interesting is week two basically shows that you can win with 50 or 60 card points, right? If you do a good job on players,
Mhm.
and you basically, you get up to 50, 60 card points, you can win. And this was something that I think, going back and looking at the top card picks, they all tend to be on the cheaper side. But what about those higher price cards? Is there a path to victory by playing some of those cards? And I think in particular, I wanted to highlight three of them. So Tunnel Vision of Love, which costs 10,000. I mean, you're more or less spending, right? You have 2,000 left that you can do something with, but more or less you're going all in on every target or being worth 3 points. Um, Catching Fire is every reception. So it's slightly cheaper, but now you're looking at receptions instead of targets. I had to put Bruising Bell Cow on for you, Steve. Again, watching 30 plus carries. um, Having that in there as, every attempt, so every carry being worth a point at 7,000. And I think it's really interesting. I think, question wise is, can you get to basically 50 or 60 card points by playing some of these cards?
So with
Um,
Tunnel Vision of Love, I just had to sort of play with it because Amon Ra had 19 targets, Malik had 18, Jackson had 16 on Seattle. So what, 19 targets get you 57 points for $10,000. So I,
yeah.
how often are we going to see this? I will say, it looks like, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 players had over 10 targets. So, when you can get that value with Speed Demon at 5,000, right? It's kind of a tough pill to swallow at 10, in my opinion.
Yes. The challenge being Speed Demon again has that, potential to be zero
Yeah,
if you don't.
it's true.
Targets, I think Cooper Cup had 21, I think in week one, right? That was 60, 63 points off of Cup alone. And that 63 points, that's it right there, right? 63 would have put you card wise right in the top five. And now I think there was that one season where Cooper Cup they hit him with like 15 plus targets every game, I feel.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Steve, what do you think? Like going into week three, let's say that you had to play one of these for week three. Who do you think is just going to be, I don't know, just off the top of your head, like folks that, they're just going to zero in on this guy?
Well, I could see after what we saw from Jacobs in the Packers game. I mean, I think they don't want Malik Willis to have to throw the ball too often. So I could see Jacobs being used for the bruising bell cow quite a bit this
Hmm.
week. I know that was one of the cards that I played this week, and I'm still like kind of I'm entering all four lineups. I'm diversifying what I do there. But I think I put in a couple lineups where I went with Najee Harris and the bruising bell cow because he got 20 carries the first game. I think he ended up getting 17 carries this week. Um, Arthur Smith is the coach there now, so I don't think they trust their quarterbacks very much either. So he'll be carrying the ball, um, but he doesn't score touchdowns. The Steelers don't score touchdowns, so that didn't help me out very much this week. But
That end zone allergy.
I like Malik Neighbors. It feels like, I mean, Daniel Jones is. Speaking of Daniel Jones, last week when we talked about Daniel Jones, as he ended up having a much much better game, but didn't I think last week, Owen, we were talking
Yeah.
about him like being a terrible passer and doing more on the ground, and looked like a little bit of the opposite.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was the starting quarterback on the DK Millie winners lineup. I'm pretty sure it was Jones that he played. It's crazy.
Hmm. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Owen, what do you think? Who do you have this week for?
See, I definitely don't disagree with Malik. I mean, he's a stud. I like Zay Flowers a lot. I mean, he's been consistently getting a pretty great target share, 10 targets each week. And I think I got to put together a Dobbins and a Jameson Williams lineup. I'm going to talk about him every week until something bad happens, which I hope it doesn't. But I like Jameson again. He's going to find the end zone for sure this week.
All right. Great. Cool. Well, I think yeah, I think that's great. Steve, thanks for joining us here today. Owen, always good to see you, buddy. And yeah, hope everyone comes back week 3. We're starting to get into the groove here. So yeah, come play Smash Up this week. Put in your lineups. Come play against Steve, play against me and Owen, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks for listening.
Awesome. Good seeing you guys. Take care. Good luck this week, everyone.
Thank you.